for the first time, the indication that the far-right populists are going to get many, many seats in the European Union.
I don't share the concern about the influence of the far-right. They will grow in number. They will be more, how to say, aggressive in their rhetoric, but how big their influence will be depends on the traditional party to flirt with them. The problem is not populists and extremists. The problem is the traditional parties who are ready to take their agenda and to work with them. Far-right in Austria didn't come to power. They were brought there by Sebastian Kurz. Now, this is a good news for Europe that this government in Austria collapsed, because it's a good example that you cannot tame them by taking them in government and looking to follow their rhetoric.
Do you think that it will reflect the results of the...
It might reflect, and for good,
for the extreme right?
Yes,
yeah.
It might
and Salvini
reflect. It might reflect, and it will be a warning for traditional party not to go with them. So still, the Greens, Social Democrats, Liberals, and EPP together will have, I guess, around 500 seats in the European Parliament.
Frankly, I see her more in the role of the President of the EU Council, the place of Donald Tusk. I think that's, and I frankly would love it. I would love to have Merkel in charge of the EU Council. She's a competent woman, she's loyal, she's a determined European.
And it would be a strong pro-European
and she gets things done.
Yeah.
She gets things done. And she's a woman, and it's time we had a woman as well. And she was born in Eastern Germany, so she ticks many, many boxes. Above all, she's a real stateswoman. Yeah. And I think it would be great to have her in the role of Donald Tusk. I do not see her myself in the role of the European Commission President, but I could be wrong.
Well, I think she would be excellent President of the Council, but she is a person who different from other politicians. I think what she says she really means, and I don't think that she is interested. The problem will be for the EU that the kind of leaders like Merkel will be missing in the future, because she was among the last leaders ready to take decisions that were not popular among the public opinion if she believed the decision was right. We are going to miss this kind of leaders who are ready to risk and who are ready to sacrifice politically for the principles. And this is not good for the future of Europe, because a young generation of politicians, even in Social Democrat Party group or in EPP, they are ready to make compromises and to work with the populists and extremists if needed, and to take some part of their agenda.
Whoever takes charge, and whatever the profile of the commissioners and the heads, they will not be, let's say, spearheading any new initiative when it comes to the Balkans.
And to quote a diplomat saying that it's better if they don't speak about enlargement, because if they speak negatively about enlargement. In Germany and France, 66% of population is against enlargement, even if the country fulfills the conditions. But many people would say that this is because of the fear of Turkish membership. Turkey is changing, not in the direction of becoming more European, unfortunately. If Weber would become a president of the Commission, his position is that Turkey should not be a candidate, and it should be told that you will never become a member state. And then this might relax the public opinion, which will not fear much the Western Balkan countries. So how to take Turkey out of the process in order to have more support for the Western Balkans. This will be a debate in the future. But when it comes to the concrete results, I expect that after the elections there will be a decision for Macedonia and maybe for Albania to set a date later in this year to open accession negotiations. As
you're saying, Borjan, I think the Commission will do its job honestly, and suggest, recommend opening negotiations, which I think, as you said, is absolutely Macedonia's right. It's done all the right things. The Prespa agreement is important, and it has raised hopes that other countries in the region will also have some reconciliation and get rid of some old animosity. So it's really raised the profile of the Balkans, definitely. But we're talking political decisions here, as Augustin has said, and that's going to be the test in the EU Council, where we know that Emmanuel Macron has since last year been saying that he's not ready for further enlargement, and he is clearly going to block any start of negotiations.
I don't think France will block start of accession talks with Macedonia. There are some attempts to decouple Albania and Macedonia, not because Macedonia is much better, but because the conditions for Macedonia is easy to measure. So you had do this and implement the agreement, and you are in. NATO signed protocol for accession, and now it's up to EU to stick to its promises. I think, of course, that the Commission will recommend start of accession negotiations. Commission has done this in last 10 years every year for Macedonia, but you haven't started. So Macedonia,
because the main reason for the European Council was that because the Greece.
Yes. Now there was a Greek
reason. Now we have
this reason disappeared.
Prime Minister Tsipras, who is a sponsor of Macedonia to start the
negotiations. So I think it will be, but I think that they will be more, how to say, relaxed after European elections, and they will say, okay, because anyway the formulation to set the date will be that we decide to later in the year to decide to open accession negotiations, provided that the ministers decide. So, it might be that they will not decide end of June because it's too early.
So what's next?
And then in July, because you know that the decision to start the talks have to be made by the European Council. But they can always formulate this in a way that later in the year it is formally approved by the Minister in General Affairs Council. So if not in June, probably in the first General Affairs Council in July, to set a date to start in October, November, December. But I think it should be done this year, and I hope that for Macedonia and probably also for Albania, but Albania is in a little bit different situation.
I mean, the thing is that they will, as I said initially, Europe is losing its credibility, its relevance, and its influence in the Balkans, and that slippery slope will continue, which is, I think, going to be a real bad thing for the region and for Europe as well. We live in the neighborhood, we keep saying we're one big family, and then you're treating one part of the family as the poor cousins, and you're keeping them deliberately outside your family in a sense. So you're treating them like step family, and I think that's going to create quite a lot of angst within the public opinion.
Now it's not. We are happy to say that it's not on the during the debate is not mentioned. It was mentioned in France during the debate. Out of 12 candidates, 11 said no about enlargement. So I agree that sometimes it's better not to mention than to mention, because when they say no, then it's more difficult for them to say yes after. So I think the consequences are already there.